Hello, everybody. Welcome. You're in the right place if you want to know what to do with the rest of the class. So, it's the beginning of the year. You're trying to get your small group guided reading instruction established, and the kids are clamoring for your attention. You never get a break. You can't teach the kids during the guided reading. What do? It's a classic problem, isn't it? How many of you have dealt with that problem? That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about it actually for 4 weeks, and tonight is tip number 1, night number 1, to start talking about how to create a balanced environment where you get to work with your students for small group guided reading instruction and the rest of the class is humming along. Doesn't that sound good? This is Reading Simplified. And I'm Marnie Ginsberg, and it's our job here at Reading Simplified to streamline classroom reading instruction and help students' reading achievement accelerate. So I'm glad you're here. Let me know if you're here, where you're from. All right. Not only where you're from, just checking to see if everything's a go with our show. Not only where you're from, but what questions do you have about how to manage the rest of the students while you're trying to work with a small group? Or if you have a system that's working for you, let's hear it. I want to know about it. Okay? So who's here? Give me a hello, tell me where you're from, and either give us something that's working successfully for you or give us a question of some sort of challenge that you have with the rest of the class. So our plan for tonight and the rest of the 4 nights, we're meeting every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, New York time, here on this Facebook page. And if you haven't already liked our Reading Simplified page, go and do it now. And even select the little arrow in the top right-hand corner where there's a drop down and select follow so you don't miss notifications. Hi, Leanne from Nova Scotia. How cool is that? And Diane, thanks for the hearts. We're so glad you're both here. And anyone else who's popping in, Alicia from Tennessee. Awesome. First grade is an awesome grade, isn't it? Okay, I can't give preferences to all of you have awesome grades, right? So what I was saying is that when we're going live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern for the next 4 weeks to talk about this problem. And each night we're going to be dealing with a different aspect of this problem. So make sure that you're following so that you don't miss anything. And also, if you think this is helpful for you, please share it with others because I know you have colleagues and friends who also deal with this. So share it out so more people can hear about it. Alicia, yes, first grade. Woohoo! Okay, so let's get into today's tip. And really today's tip is a foundational tip. Sorry, I'm on the wrong screen there. Whoops. It's kind of laying the groundwork for everything that we're going to talk about today. Okay? And this is the theme. Does that make any sense to you guys? Kids aren't widgets. Do you know what a widget is? It's just an idea of any kind of thing that you might make, that manufacturers might make. And a long time ago, let's see if I can get this to fixed. It's kind of wonky. There we go. Does that look better? Sorry about that. Try one more thing. Okay, how about that? So, yes, back to widgets. Kids aren't widgets, and so we can't treat them all the same. If you were working in a factory and you stick in your little piece of plastic and smush it, it comes out looking just like it needs to look to go onto a computer part or a car part. But a kid is not like that, right? Not every kid is the same as other kids. And so as we lay the groundwork for making sure that the rest of the class is doing well and is happy and engaged and not pestering you and bothering one another and wasting time, well, this is where it all starts. Okay, so let's talk about what this kids aren't widgets concept means. Many of you may be familiar with this famous parable that Jesus told about not building your house on the sand. Have you heard of that one? He says, hey, if you build your house on the sand, when the storms come, um, your house is going to fall down like this house, right? In contrast, he said, instead, don't build your house on sand, build it on a rock. And when the storms come, your house will stand. And so this is a principle that he's teaching, and his point has to do with the Word of God and following the Word of God. But we can take this principle and apply it kind of loosely to how we're going to think about our groups. If we don't start with a strong foundation as we establish our routines for the year, where we're meeting each kid's needs separately, then we are going to struggle all year long. And our guided reading and our small group instruction may look more like a house on the sand. And none of us want to build that way, do we? So what is the key principle that I'm going to recommend today? Laying the groundwork, as I said, for the tips about how to make the rest of the class work and hum and just sing well. Well, the main principle that I want you to consider is that you should teach every student at their level. What do you think about that? Or at least near their level. Some of you may be doing that already, and that is a no-brainer. Some of you may not be doing it much, but you do it some, and some of you may do it very rarely and think it's an impossibility. So where do you guys fall? Is teaching every student at their level an impossibility? Having trouble with my little pictures, aren't I? Let's narrow this down. How about that? How many of you are already doing it? Alexis, okay, so you're told to meet their instructional level. That is good. But do you find it daunting? And how many of you, for instance, if you were to create centers, while you're doing guided reading, you send students off to work independently or in groups in centers or in stations, do they all do the same thing across the course of the day? Or are some of them doing things that are better matched to their level? Well, when you can, Alexa says she's using the daily 5, so that gives you the possibility of meeting their levels in different groups. Okay, great. Anybody else? What is this a concept that just blows your mind, or they're already there? We're just laying the groundwork today, and next week we'll start to slowly build up from here so you can see a vision for a system that works in your classroom and your kids can be successful. And the first step is, remember this key principle to teach everyone at their level. Okay, Susanna, so you're already doing the daily 5. Does that allow you, the way you've constructed it, to have students working at their level? So when they're working with words, is everyone going to, when they get to that center or that station, is everyone doing the same thing, or are you able to differentiate it? Okay, read to self, read to someone, working on writing, and word work. Yep, that's 4. Okay, so let me know what you think about this concept. This, I would say, is how to build your house on the rock. And this is how you'll save the trouble that you get, especially as the year progresses, when your students aren't paying attention to you, or when your students aren't successful, or when your students are goofing off, or when they're not learning. A lot of it may come back to the fact that they aren't working at their level. Awesome, Alexis. So you're able to get them at their level. When the American schools in particular, and maybe many places, when they got started, it was established based on the factory model. Have you heard about this before? So people were so excited about how we were so sophisticated and we're going to run our schools like factories. So if a kid comes in, just like a widget comes into the factory, you carry it down this assembly line here, right? But the kindergarten comes in at kindergarten, and they need to be at kindergarten instruction, and we move them along, everybody together down the assembly line. And then when they're in first grade, we start the system over again, and they go down the assembly line, right? That may be a little bit of a hyperbole, but it is how many reading programs recommend that we teach, that everybody gets the same thing at the same time on the same day in the same way. That is not meeting kids where they are at. And so then, guess what? they tend to goof off. So Alexis say you have to differentiate, and yes, Susanna, everyone works on the same thing. Problem is keeping them engaged. That's right. So maybe I can suggest to you guys in the coming weeks a way of getting kids on their level, even and yet still doing the same activity. So that's what the exciting thing that we're going to start to unveil each of the following weeks. But you're able to differentiate, Susanna, when you work with your small groups. Excellent, excellent. So I would propose that our schools and our reading programs have an outward structure and sometimes a very inward structure of a factory model. And we, as classroom teachers, need to kind of push back from that and look for opportunities where we can break that mold. Okay? And that's because we want our kids to be engaged. And if the material is too easy or too hard, are they engaged? Well, not for long. And so that's what I want to point out here with this visual. This is kind of the classic bell curve. You've probably seen this idea where everybody falls in some place along this line. And so some kids with, say, early decoding are way down near the end of this line on the right, and they're just whizzing along. Many kids are kind of in the center, and some are struggling in the back left end of this curve and really frustrated. So for teaching decoding, and everybody is supposed to do the same thing at a station or a center while we work with a small group, some of them are going to be working at a level that's too easy for them. Some of them are going to be working at a level that may be just right, and some of them are going to be working at frustrational level. It may vary. You may have 25% of the kids that are just right. Maybe it's 40%. If you're lucky, even 50%. But if you have 50% of your students who are working at their level during stations or centers, what does that mean? Simple math here, 50% aren't working at their level and may very well be disengaged out of boredom or frustration. Now, many kids can do this for a while, especially in kindergarten, first grade. They're so excited about school. They want to obey their teacher. They're excited, and doing something easy is fun for a while. But after 10 days or 10 weeks, moving on towards our 180th day of school, it is too hard for almost any kid to do something that's not in their instructional match, not in an area where they are triggered to want to learn. There's a lot of psychologists who've done some research on how we like to be in equilibrium with our environment. When we don't know something, we get frustrated and we kind of work towards getting that knowledge figured out, and we want to reach that bar. But if it's too high, we will just quit. But if we're being exposed to things that are just below us, we don't feel the sense of challenge. We're not as engaged. Our brain is literally just less on fire. And so when we get kids to that point, that it's just, we're instructing them just above where they're able, they're much more likely to stay engaged. So that is really my main point for this first day. This is the foundational principle that will help us plan for the rest of the class successfully. If we first don't think about how to group our students and have them doing different things, we are going to find that engagement is really hard to attain. But when our students are engaged, what do they do? What do they look like when your students are engaged? We have all seen it. Give me some examples. What are your students doing, or what are they feeling when they're engaged? They are actively doing something in school with enthusiasm. What does that look like? Maybe you've already seen it this year. Woohoo! If you have. Anyone have something that they want to share about when their students have been engaged? Because that is really that groundwork that we're trying to lay. Build that house on a solid rock of meeting kids' needs so that they are engaged. And when they're engaged, all the rest of the systems and the tricks and the organizational tools, which we'll share in the following weeks, can run more smoothly. So Alexis, yeah, engage for you, it means active learning, and they're excited. And Diane, sometimes it means they're going to be working quietly, right? Because they're focused. Focus is huge with engagement. That's right. So if we can reach a place where we are meeting kids' needs, or at least close to their needs, we have that instructional match, then we will see engagement go up and misbehavior go down. That's a simple formula, isn't it? When your kids are engaged, misbehavior goes down. Engagement going up, off-task behavior going down. And Susanna, you say that engagement is they're excited and happy but not distracted. Right, back to what Diane was kind of aiming for there, probably that focus. They are tuning out the other things that are going around them, and they are doing something they are learning or engaged in, excited about. I like how we've thrown in that word excitement. That's pretty cool. So I have a homework assignment for you guys. You know, I'm a teacher, right? So first of all, I want you to start thinking about how you can aim for instructional match. And secondly, here's your homework this week. Because we want to lay the groundwork of this principle of aiming for instructional match, look for engagement this week in your students and see, and just kind of make a note, make a mental note, put a note on a post-it note. What are you noticing this week with your kids when they're engaged? And that will help us bridge into the next week's topic so that we can keep answering this question, what do I do with the rest of the class? Okay, yay. Sometimes even teachers are like, you know, the ones who like school the most, right? So we wouldn't have gone into this profession. So homework is not bad, okay? Thank you, Alexis. So do you guys understand your homework? Are you ready? Just keep a watch for engagement in your class this week. Notice what's happening, what they are feeling, what set the moment up to let them be engaged, all right? And also reflect on that principle of back here, if you can aim for instructional match. So that may seem daunting, or it may be just close in reach, or it may be that you're already reaching for it, but you want to make some tweaks. So think about that as you think about their engagement this week. So that is my main point this week. We're starting with principles and foundation. So we build on a strong, solid foundation. And in the next 3 weeks, on Tuesday at 8 p.m. here at Reading Simplified, we are going to be more tactical and give tips and tricks to make it work. But I didn't want to just give you a Band-Aid, all right? Because Band-Aids will rip off within a matter of days. But if you lay the strong foundation and then put on the tricks and the organizational strategies on top of that, that house won't crumble. All right, so that's my point for today. If you have any questions, let me hear them, or if you have some encouragement for other people to try to aim for instructional match, let me hear about that. And there is a link in the post above about a small group guided reading structure that I recommend. This is how I would suggest that we work in sessions with guided reading. And that kind of forms the basis of how the rest of the class operates. So if you want to kind of dive deeper into that, you can link to that post and get a free lesson plan. Many of you have already accessed that, but if you don't know anything about that, check that out. That's an in-depth post with some freebies that may give you a little more info. Okay, you're welcome, Janet. Any questions? Any comments? Or I think it might be about time for us to say good night. If you think this is a principle that you would like for other teachers to know about, and you want to hear what's coming up in the next 3 weeks, then share this with a friend. And guess what? What is coming up in the next 3 weeks? Let's see. Okay, so next week, we are on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We're going to talk about grouping your students by the core drivers in early reading achievement. There's a lot that we're told to test, a lot that we're told to look for, but there's only a few things that make for good readers, whether they're beginning or they're struggling. These are the core things that you need to look for. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll talk about consistent centers that differentiate only with words and text. In other words, I'm not asking you to do something impossible and create thousands of centers and have materials swapping out, flying left and right. I'm going to recommend that you have a constant center or a consistent center, but when kids go to it, depending on their level, they choose different things. So it makes it a lot easier on you. And Alexis, yes, we should talk about the higher kiddos. Thank you. And then the last week, 6 centers to streamline your instruction. So going back to maybe you don't have to do 15 centers and swap things out all month, that there's probably about 6 centers that are core that will move the needle the most rapidly in early reading or for those who struggle. And that's what we'll share the last week. So for those higher kiddos, if they're actually, Alexis, above grade level in their reading, and they're really strong in decoding, then they are moving more towards building fluency. I know you happen to teach first grade, so this would be applicable particularly for first grade. They would be moving on towards a focus on fluency, whereas maybe other kids would be somewhat exposed to that, but not as much. And they would be working on building their interests in more and more books, and more genres. So pushing them out into exploring more reading and more self-selection so they can read higher and higher levels that matches their interest, but then also maybe showing them new paths. If they've always read fiction, then let them occasionally read an informational text and vice versa. And then thirdly, so that's fluency, comprehension, and then thirdly would be vocabulary, expanding their knowledge of words. Not so much about print, especially if they're well above grade level, but more about expanding their world of words, which could be just making a little notebook or Post-its of words that they're collecting that are cool, that they come across and they can discuss with you or with a parent or with their peers, or maybe actually doing vocabulary study, particularly with prefixes, suffixes, Greek or Latin roots. Those are some things that would be the next kind of wave. And even writing, if that's engaging. You don't want their reading activity to turn into writing if writing is taxing. So if they're excited about reading, you don't want that to be a downer. So that's a good question. Keep them coming, and I look forward to zooming into your Facebook window next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for being here.